makes the sun go to sleep every night? And what's it dreaming of? I wonder.
We have a problem. Now that the walls are painted, we have a starting point and it's time to design the rest of the space. Like I do for the rest of my home, I'm planning out the space in Milanote, which is a tool for organizing your creative projects. I have never really shown you this step, but oftentimes the very first thing I like to do is to bring in the floor plan of the space and just brainstorm about what could go in here. When you walk into our bathroom now, the first thing that catches your eye is the mismatched side patterns of the washer and dryer. This is actually a huge request from Pat to hide the ugly sides of the washer tower. Using the Milanote web clipper, I'm adding in some inspiration pictures of what the design of this wall divider could be. Our bathroom is quite small and there isn't actually any more room to bring in a whole piece of furniture except for a bigger sink vanity. The wall cabinet that we hung recently is a Scandinavian design with very clean lines. If we did do something similar for the bathroom vanity, it would look really matchy-matchy and modern, which although could be beautiful, is not our home design style. So instead, I'm bringing in a vintage element and this is my main inspiration picture. Obviously, we want to make it vanity height, so within Milanote, I can crop the images and piece them together to visualize better what I want. Here, I've created a DIY task board, which is what you usually see in my other makeovers. I've listed the measurements of the space, popped in some digital sketches that I've made, my material list, building steps to keep in mind, and some reference videos. Honestly, being able to keep track of everything in one place while I DIY has prevented me from just about 1,000 meltdowns. Milanote is absolutely free to use with no time limit. It's the perfect place for brainstorming, task listing, and visualizing your ideas. Sign up for Milanote today using my link and start designing and DIYing. A big thank you to Milanote for partnering with me on today's video.
Ikea, Ikea.
I can't see here. It just falls out. I don't get it.
score, I don't know, but I'm trying to figure this out on my own. Take me to paradise and call me back home. Make me feel young again as I'm growing old. There's some things you can't control, but I think I know a thing or two about love, 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 love. You steal it when you need it, and you give it when you don't. Maybe I'm not the one that you've been dreaming of. Turn on me, my fingernails are worn out. I never thought that I would fall for someone like you. And I'm not a single thing in the whole wide world. But I don't wanna run away from you, 'cause baby I am done hiding my love for you. So please won't you run away with me, 'cause you can't control who you fall for.
I would say that the biggest lesson I've learned from doing all these DIYs is the flexibility and courage to pivot from my original vision. Things almost never work out like what I envisioned in my head. From the paint swatches to the funny lampshade and now the Vanity DIY. I was having such a hard time picking a handle for the Vanity because everything just looked wrong. I tried 20 different handles and hated all of them. The surface of the drawer front was so large that it just looked disproportionate to the size of the handles. Both Pat and I don't love the look of big handles. We tend to prefer something more delicate looking, so ordering larger handles wasn't an option. Instead, I decided to add more pieces of molding to break up the large surface of the drawer front, and this meant that I had to go to the hardware store again, I had to open up my can of stain again, and I had to delay until the next morning to be able to seal everything with a coat of Hardwicks oil. But you know what? This subtle detail that added hours to my DIY ended up being the key to me loving the end result. So maybe sometimes we should just listen to Ross and pivot. ruined the top.
I've said it many times, I know I would change my ways, I know for sure. When all the crows decide to meet, they settle down beneath my feet. I've got it right and I've got it wrong, but I learned my lesson hanging on. Come sit here with me by the fire and let it go for a little while. So be here as the night starts falling. Let my fingers walk over your head. We got nothing to be scared of. I'd rather be with you than by myself. Not always in your head.
Too proud of you. Let's eat now. Do that later. Do that later. Do that later. I don't care. I'm hungry.
So
Bye-bye.
Standing underneath the lights, look into each other's eyes. Tired snowflakes are coming down, collapse into water when they hit the ground. I hear the sound of empty streets. Yesterday is gone to sleep, so all that's left is you and me. I can promise you're the only thing I see. Hold my hand and hear the words I say. Close your eyes and let us fade away. Build a secret place for you and me. Let our minds be caught up in a dream. Quiet voice voices in the night. Time is running out of sight. A lonely wind is passing by, tries to carry all the whispers that it finds. The walls are listening when we talk, making echoes as we walk. There's no one left but you and me. It's like a made-up place that only we can see. Hold my hand and hear the words I say. Close your eyes and let us fade away.